Hey everybody, my name is Letiredd, content creator over on Twitch, and today I'm going to be covering more Star Citizen, and we're going to be talking about the latest ISC that just came out today about engineering. It is called, to be exact, Inside Star Citizen. Words, man, fuck. Ah mais déjà, le temps qu'il va me falloir pour faire la vidéo complète sans me ramasser la gueule avec mes mots, on en a pour un moment. Alright. Word are hard. Our brain no braining. All right. And today we're talking about Inside Star Citizen. Inside Star Citizen engineering talking with Thorsten. All right, you know what? This is going to be really complicated. Fuck. All right, but welcome in. Yeah, let's we've been looking forward to engineering for a long time. It was first announced last year, and we were originally supposed to get it in game back in very late December, early January, when Pyro 4.0 finally dropped. And I say finally because it was something that we were waiting on for quite a while. So they're only about 11 and a half months behind on their engineering release dates, but better late than never, and hopefully in a decent state. Although that last part, I'm not necessarily convinced, but that's not necessarily like a dig at Star Citizen. It's, I think, just more of a reality of the alpha, the building, and just, well, you know, what this project has shown us in the past. Still love Star Citizen, but nothing drives me crazier, and nothing makes me feel the same way as it does, and that's a positive thing, because for everybody who's hating on it, which I find really funny, and if you go on YouTube, you'll see these new content creators coming into Star Citizen and like giving their impressions, and they all have the same impression for the most part. Holy shit, I just went from my bed into the station, into a hangar, into my ship, out of the hangar, flew to a planet, landed on the planet, ran around, got back in my... And that typically is enough to blow people away because of just how goddamn good it looks. And it feels at times when it works. And it works better now overall than it did before. All right, enough of the backstory on engineering. Let's talk about what exactly we're going to be seeing. And I know it's in PTU Wave 1. I don't know if they went to Wave 2 yet. Oh, yes, and, you know, obviously if you can beat the true end boss of Star Citizen, which is the elevators or freight elevators, either one. All right, positive thoughts about engineering. It's going to be fantastic.
So we've been talking about engineering in one way or another for several years now.
Yes.
Whether that's ISC,
I am really looking forward to see what you all will be doing with it.
or SCL,
Is engineered this absolutely enormous behemoth thing that's going to ruin everybody's experience?
If you're into that, yes.
I think that is a yes. It is not, I wouldn't say ruin, but I have a feeling we're going to be on foot for a minute in Star Citizen. So it's where we start to like places like Lorville or Microtech, where you can not necessarily need a ship to get off of the station or the city. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm honestly not sure exactly what to expect. You know, the optimist in me will be like, it'll be great. The pessimist in me is like, will we even be able to log in? But anyways, I only bring that up because on the last patch, I couldn't log in for the first 2 days. And I know other people were having issues with graphics drivers and stuff like that. So here's hoping it's better.
or even 2 different CitizenCon presentations.
We already talked about it several times, but wait, there's one more thing.
When I was dressed up as a late-night television host vampire and dumping sand throughout the LA office without permission.
Don't ever do this again! They're begging me not to continue! But we will show them! Count Disco does not know how to listen!
Yes, it was a different time.
A lot of jokes to be made around what he just said. I don't know if it's just Count Disco that doesn't know how to listen. I'm sorry, it was too easy.
But over the years, the systems have continued to evolve, and now, after 7 videos, several Arena Commander and Tech Preview tests, and the current PTU cycle underway now, we've never been closer to bringing the next evolution of spaceflight to life ahead of our intended release later this month. So rather than go through every detail once again of what you're already experiencing on the PTU now, I sat down with Torsten for this short discussion of what I'm calling Inside Star Citizen, Talking with Torsten, the 8th show about engineering.
I feel like he should have just put, it's fine, everything's fine. I mean, this is the meme we're going for, right? And no, I have not jumped into PTU yet. I will probably not jump into it, if I'm being honest. A, I'm no longer Wave 1. And B, yeah, I don't know. I used to do it, you know, jump into PTU. How there have been times when certain people have put a call out to basically, hey, everybody jump into PTU. We really need to test this. It's important. I'll make an effort. But for the most part, we're already testing it in live. It's not really live. It's just PU/PTU. I mean, everything is really ironed out for the most part in live. But then, you know, I've heard that quite often, and I'm not trying to be overly pessimistic, just a bit more realistic, is I've heard that so many times that it's running well in the PTU. And then, you know, the next person comes in and says it's still buggy, and I guess it also still depends on personal experience, because not everybody has the same connection, not everybody has the same machine, blah, blah, blah. A lot of variables to take into consideration for the Citizen of the Stars, but I am looking forward to it being in game. And what I mean by that is I'm not necessarily interested in the mess that'll come in, but Stavo makes a good point. It is not scaled the same because they don't get the same player count. And one of the reasons why nowadays I think we see them blow through the waves a lot quicker isn't because the next version is actually ready for more people, is because they need enough people to get enough data to actually make true meaningful adjustments to the patch. And I've been very vocal about this for a long time now. Get rid of the wave system. If you do that, I will probably come in and put more time into the PTU. But what have they done? They've put the PTU behind a subscription. If you want Wave 1, it no longer is just the amount of playing time you put in, how dedicated people are to this game. It's also tied to how much money you put into the game, and like that kind of stuff is going to make for some odd decisions in terms of the development, because that may not be what's most beneficial for them in terms of data gathered, but it is more beneficial for the marketing team. And you're always going to have those two going head to head, and unfortunately marketing is going to win more often than not because, well, you got to fund the game. He needs money somehow. It's not finished. They're doing 3 projects with the money they've collected. And yes, we've collected, what is it, probably like 920 million now. It was 914 or 15 on Sunday. So probably connected more. But yeah, all that to say that there's just, you know, there's too many issues, I think, with the way they do PTU. And like Classical says, you just got to do it live. Fuck it. We'll do it live. And that should be on a placard somewhere in CIG's offices. Let's be honest. Okay, back to the video.
Before it's been released. And that's why we didn't do another CitizenCon thing this year. All right, we can probably shorten it to just talking with Torsten. Yeah.
So, right off the bat, it's been a year since we did that last ISC on engineering. What's the same? What's changed?
We didn't change a lot. What did change is the main direction of the feature itself.
Just the main direction.
Just the main direction. Technically everything that you...
Okay, just that right there is actually really nice to hear, because that now explains why it's taken so long with engineering. I think it probably was getting to a point where they wanted to release it for 4.0, but then they probably started testing it more and were like, oh, shiza, this may not be what we were going for.
We had in the Arena Commander, everything that we talked about still stands true. So everything that we discussed, all the intentions we had, still stands true. We had before like the direction of things have to happen. You have to be on your toes. You have to be very reactive to everything that is happening. We notice that this is not particularly fun. So
Just giving people something to do is not enough.
giving people something to do can be really fun, but it pulls too much attention to these rather than of the gameplay that you should experience.
Okay, that's, again, I enjoy these talks when they're being a bit more honest. And I think Torsten is being very honest. And it's incredibly gratifying to hear these things because it kind of goes with what a lot of people were saying, or some of us were thinking, is how fun is engineering going to be? And, we've had these discussions. We talked about it on Sunday. I've had other discussions in previous podcasts where we talked about engineering and what it potentially could mean for the verse. Recently when I was talking about content, one of the things that, really bothers me is a lot of it is just busy work. And it's what it kind of sounds like engineering was just going to become busy work. And I'm glad they realized that. They caught it. And I'm hoping that now what we get is a bit more interesting.
Warning, fire detected.
So the direction that we got was, and we are now acting on, is that engineering gameplay is there to extend the lifetime of the ships rather than making your life miserable on a ship.
It's a nice change.
Good,
I
good
think
call.
it might be worth it, yes.
Let's refresh ourselves on the basics of how it works for people who haven't gone back and watched the 7 previous videos. The first thing is preemptive or preventative stuff, the stuff that happens before things happen. Tell me how you use engineering to prepare your ship.
One of the main things right now that you have to do, or you should do, is prepare for travels. So you should buy fuses ahead of time so that you can replace them once they break on the ship. You should buy enough filled RMC canisters so that you are able to repair the components on site. So this is like the prep work, the first, hopefully, 5 minutes, if we can make something work.
He's trying to get vendors added to the spaceports so that you know how to run around. We'll see if we end up with that or not. I'll say it, you don't have to say it. Continue.
For bigger ships that allow components to be swapped out in fight or in your travels, you can also prepare by buying components and then storing them on the ship so that you can replace them.
So first part of engineering resource network is preparation. In the single seat ships, the fighters and stuff, does this still affect their day-to-day life?
No. So yes, but no. so engineering gameplay affects everything. What engineering gameplay does there is that it extends the lifetime. So imagine you are on your single-seater fighter, you're not doing too well, and you barely survive. Now you can use the MFD to repair the components that allow you to travel back home. So this is the extension of the lifetime of the ship that you invested.
Okay, that's really interesting. Okay, first of all, I'm glad it'll have a lesser impact on small ships. I think that's really important. I think that is, and I think, they took the right direction pushing it more for larger multi-crew ships. It makes absolute sense. However, again, and I recently had this discussion about Tarkov, this thing with time gates. I mean, these look very short, no problem. But is it going to scale up for larger ships? Is this going to be something similar, or is it really going to be fully manual? I don't know. Maybe getting a little ahead of myself because we still have to finish off the video. But lately, anytime I see a timer pop up next to something in a game, I just go, ew, nasty. And I think Caliban eventually we will either have, maybe not Astro droids, but NPC crew or, stuff like that can repair a ship. I wouldn't expect them to add a slot in the back of the Scorpius for an Astro droid. I mean, they're already flirting pretty hard with the lawsuit from Disney, so I don't know how hard they're going to go into that, but we'll see.
Time in.
And so then for ships with interiors up to the bigger multi-crew ships,
Yes.
the next big change with engineering is a damage to your components.
So on the ships with interior, you will have access to the components. by having access to the components, there's the chance for you to repair on-site or repair while they are taking damage. Normally, you would die in the game that is like at 4.4, but with engineering gameplay, you would be able then to point the repair gun at the component, bring it back from 0 health to full health, so you get your power plant back. Or
Okay, that little detail right there was really interesting. You'll be able to bring it back from 0 health to full health, meaning that it doesn't sound like, at least for now, they're going to push you to have to replace your components completely and often. That is a very big positive, because as I'm watching this, something I'm starting to ask myself is, okay, well, are they going to try to push this so that you've fried a component and you have to get back and find a new one, have somebody bring you one if you're near a larger ship so you can go somewhere? And I think it's really important that they just mentioned that you can bring it from 0 to 100 yourself. There is not going to be some sort of durability penalty or whatever, where the more you repair it, the more its overall life drops. That's, again, playing too much Tarkov recently, so I understand myself.
you extinguish the fire, repair afterwards, and then you're ready to go. And that scales now with the amount of people that you can fit on your ship. So yes, the next chapter of engineering is repairing and exchanging of components and potentially exchanging fuses.
And it's not just managing the components, it's managing the relays. How do the relays work?
They changed a little. So if you recall, in the early tech preview and even the early arena commander mode, relays were like the weak point of any ship. We thought back in the day that this is a really, really good idea. And to a degree, it would be. But with ships where some relays are placed in a very accessible position for getting shot at some point there will be the expert players that will just target those and you will be rendered useless within a blink of an eye, which disagrees with the statement of we have to bump up the TTK here. So relays and fuses are still relevant, but if a relay does not hold any fuses anymore, basically the ship cannot support the full amount of power that the power plant would allow you to have. It makes sense to repair or restock the fuses.
But it's not going to stop your coal. It's not going to prevent doors from opening anymore.
No.
If you don't effectively address the needs of your components and everything, it can now generate a new hazard for the interiors of spaceships: fire.
Warning, fire detected.
I'm glad he specified interiors of spaceships because, for a second I was worried we were going to have fire in space, but we're good. Them having an overall lifespan, I'm curious what that'll look like in the end, because right now, essentially, if that happens, there would be no point, unless you have no life and play this 16 hours a day, to put in the top tier components to eventually lose them. Unless you're just an industrial type player and you're not really coming into combat. But I think for combat, if X amount of fights have to go and find new top tier components, that's going to suck. That's going to suck. And again, that just sounds like more busy work. Look, at the end of the day, all I want to see is something that respects my time and that is built for a larger gaming experience. Is every single one of these things is just there to take more of my time and I have to spend more and more time. He said 5 minutes hopefully, but I think the understanding there was that there might be, cases where it takes a bit more than 5 minutes. That's fine, especially if it's a very big ship. But then again, one solo person trying to fix up all the components in an Idris is probably going to have a shitty time. So I can understand, that at the same time, like, that's not the way they've envisioned it. And it should be multiple players. But, I think some people are going to get frustrated. Yeah, I said this before, and I think it's a perfect time to reiterate it. There's going to be some growing pains with these new things coming in, and that's totally normal. It's totally acceptable. It's something we'll just have to deal with, and it'll be unfortunate, but it's part of the process, and hopefully we can give them good feedback, and hopefully they listen.
So fire can happen in several ways in our game. So one aspect is exterior induced damage to your ship. that can cause a fire. Components will trigger fire based on hits from bullets. So energy weapons are right now the most effective one in setting interiors on fire if they hit the
Okay, so I understand the idea of wanting ballistics to be able to pierce the hull, but visually, it's not looking so great. Doesn't look so good.
components on the interior versus ballistics. They have a very small chance of igniting the components. And the next big thing is mismanagement of your ship. So if you make your ship run too hot, so if you, for example, think you don't need the full power on your coolers, that means that all the other components start to overheat. We have a system in place that basically has the auto shut off of some of the components, but sometimes that might not be enough. So the temperature rises so high that the component itself incinerates, and then you have a fire due to this systemic approach. And then the third type is malfunctions. These are induced by the wear and tear. So the higher the wear and tear of the component, the higher the chances is in different stages that they can trigger an ignition.
You've repaired it a few times, but you haven't replaced it.
Correct, yes.
And in dealing with fire, how do you deal with fire?
So you have the extinguisher that we now place in every ship, which is the active counter to that. The more fire extinguisher point to the same fire, so they're much quicker. That's the most straightforward way. The next way...
Okay, fun little side note. I'm expecting the first time I go to put out a fire for it not to work. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
Is venting the ship. And for the release, the way that you will be able to do that is by daisy chaining doors. So what you have to do, basically open the door next to the next door, so that you at some point reach a door that leads to the exterior
And vent the atmosphere.
and vent the atmosphere out.
Sounds like when you're the second player playing Gyromite back in the day. So yeah, preparing with replacement components and fuses if you have interiors, repairing those components and replacing those fuses if they take damage, and then dealing with fires. That's essentially the engineering loop that's on its way in 4 or 5. We've recently been in tech preview testing. How's that been going?
The feedback that we received is helped us a lot, and helped us also to make some points in some of the changes that we have been seeing now between the different tech previews, which is really good because it brings the gameplay to exactly what we want to have, which is extending lifetime of ships and not being an annoyance, a constant annoyance. One thing that had to come with the engineering gameplay is a full rebalance. So a full rebalance of all weapons, of all ship components, of like basically how our character, the ship, functions in the game. I think we are approaching right now a good baseline for the release. So I'm hoping that we get some more testing in, because the longer we have the tech preview running, the more we see what needs still to be updated. So
Now, at the time that this airs, because we're recording this rather early in November, we'll be on PTU. We'll be on PTU with full-blown testing for an intended December release, which is really exciting. Ending the year with a new star system wasn't quite enough. We want to end the year with this gameplay system. It's going to fundamentally change every spaceship in the game.
Stop acting like it's not something you guys should have had in a long time ago. So saying, we got this in along with the bare bones Knicks. Like, I get it. But, you know, it's that kind of stuff that annoys me, personally. Now, I know a lot of people don't feel the same way. I'm totally cool with that. You do you. But I think it's... Anyways.
That we've been talking about for 5 years at this point. As far as every ship, we say it will affect every ship, and not every ship equally at the time of this release. My understanding is there's about 80 ships at the point of 4.5 release that have everything. There's about 30 ships in various states of conversion. Some have engineering screens but don't have physicalized components. Some have physicalized components but don't have engineering screens. Through all of it, you'll be able to use engineering one way or another. Last thing you want to say to folks as they're testing it in PTU now and they see this ahead of its intended release before the end of December.
Yeah, so I definitely need to shout out like the people that have been sticking around with me and with everyone involved in that feature. It's a huge group, but the core people that really deserve a lot of like praise are Guillermo, and yeah, Scott. Those are my key personnel that without them we wouldn't be here. So with that out of the way, the feature is made to stay. This is Star Citizen. This is the definition of Star Citizen. This is what we always wanted, and finally we have it.
It's where we've been talking about going for the last
Yes.
5 years, yeah.
It doesn't mean, though, that what you see right now is set in stone. So we appreciate all the feedback that we receive. We are aware that we don't deliver something that is perfect right away. So we need your help, as always, to point out the things where we can still improve. We are not done yet with engineering gameplay. There are still things that we have on the list. And we are consciously holding back those ideas right now because we think we already gave a lot and we are a bit scared of overwhelming the players a bit. And now we want to observe you playing that and basically figuring out what still needs to be added or even what we need to adjust.
Well, that's Torsten Lyman on engineering, available on PTU right now. If you haven't jumped in and given it a try, do so. And yeah, as we head towards our December release for 4.5.
Oh, and as a coda, since we recorded this, we've also decided to add armor into this release as well. So keep a lookout for the upcoming engineering guide that'll go out with the release of 4.5 to learn more. Thanks for watching. We'll see you all again next year.
Okay. So closing thoughts. I'm glad they, at least for now, it doesn't look like it's going to be too intense. It looks like it's still relatively small changes. Small. I mean, engineering is a huge feature that we've been waiting on, so maybe not that small, but I think it was good to learn that they don't intend for it to be super time consuming in order to set up. They intend for it to be a feature that works on smaller craft, but you'll be easily able to deal with it through your MFD without necessarily having to get out of your ship and fix anything. I think it was important for us to see that you can repair everything from 0 to 100. That really the only things right now it looks like that will need to be replaced are relays. I think we got some very useful information. I actually really appreciate Thorson at the beginning going, hey, make sure you have this, make sure you have this. You know, make sure you have SRT canisters, make sure you have a multi-tool, make sure you have the proper attachments for your multi-tool. You know, like we're obviously going to have to make a quick little video about that when engineering comes out, but, and I'm sure many others will. But it was nice to hear those tips. It's, you know, always refreshing to hear from people like Thorson because he's clearly very much invested into this project. I think someone like him actually enjoys what he does in a project like this. So again, always nice to hear from them. But I have some reserves about it. I have some concerns about how it's going to go. You know, to go off of what Kinky's saying, yeah, you know, and like I've said before, it's going to be a probably shaky beginnings. You know, it's gonna be, there's gonna be some growing pains. There'll be some rebalancing. I'm sure we'll have to deal with things that aren't necessarily the system itself that's bugged, but it might be a bug with the servers. Again, I really hope, and this kind of goes off what you said as well, Kinky, is I really hope that they release it a week before they go on vacation, so that at least in that week before they go on vacation, they can fix some of the things that are almost certainly going to go wrong when it hits live and it hits all the servers and it hits the big 700 people shards, and 700 people on a shard are using ships, you know, almost simultaneously, and things start to go wrong. What kind of load will it have on the server? Are we going to go back to chasing low pop servers, or are we going to be happy with wherever we end up? A lot of questions about that. And again, I don't think it's too important. If you are someone who plays Star Citizen mainly, I highly advise that you may want to look into a potential second game to play for a little bit. No, I'm kidding. I'm sure it'll be fine. No, it probably won't. But once they do iron out the kinks, it should make for a very different playthrough in a game. And again, I'm going to reiterate this because it's something that I'm more and more worried about with Star Citizen. Even though I still believe things can change once they get to 1.0, but because we're so far away from that, anything they add in has the potential to seriously change how you play, depending on how well it works or doesn't work. But, you know, some of you may not remember this, but when cargo, physicalized cargo first started becoming a thing in the verse, it didn't always work that well. Before this whole talk of manually and, you know, unloading and unloading everything and things used to just spawn in your ship, yeah, there was some rough times with cargo. Sometimes cargo blow up ship. And, yeah, I remember those days. And when that happens, you just got to put it down, do something else in the verse, play something else for a minute, and then come back to it. And like Marv says, have a plan B. Plan B's are good. Or plan C and D, too. Who knows? You can never be too prepared. But no, all kidding aside, I think it's great. It's important for Star Citizen that engineering is getting into the game. It's nice to see it happening. It's nice to see that, you know, even though there's still criticism to give them, props to them for having a rather packed year in terms of everything that we got. There's definitely a lot more to do. There is definitely more in the game than a year ago. You know, we have Pyro now. Pyro is stable. We've gotten to Nyx. Nyx was very laggy at first. Honestly, the last few times I was in there, FPS-wise, it wasn't bad. Lag-wise, it wasn't terrible. Still some weird moments when you're on asteroid bases with your buddies. You know, people hovering, people flying along the ground, shooting backwards, shooting down. Anyways, there's some weird stuff. But overall, it does play pretty well. It plays way better than it did a year ago. You know, again, props where props are due. But a lot of it, to me, just feels like keeping busy. I cannot stand the rep grind. I really hope they find a way to balance that out and make it a bit more enjoyable. And I'm not saying get rid of it, because I understand MMO that there needs to be something that you have to work towards. But I guess my biggest gripe would be that what I'm working towards isn't rewarding enough or really lead me to anything else other than go do this cool thing. And yes, they're all very cool things. Hathor is cool. Contested zones are cool. The Worm, the Valakar is cool. ASDs are really cool. The new asteroid bases are cool. All that stuff is cool. But now I really hope that these next couple of years are a push to tie that all together into a very well laced bouquet, ribbon, whatever. Words today, man. Not working out. Yeah, but I hope it all comes together into something nice, because it's a little disjointed. But at the same time, I think that's normal in a game that's openly sharing their development. You know, you can argue whether that's a good thing or bad. This is how they've chosen to do it. They've made a bunch of money doing it. Yeah. So anyways, all right, everybody. Thank you so much. If you got this far in the video, consider leaving a like and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one. Thank you very much for watching.